So here we were just trying to see that if the child window is closed and parent window should be written, right? So earlier we did not pass this parent string here, okay? So because it is trying to get, like, once we get this all windows, so what it does is like it's going to take the current window as like parent window. So that is the reason why it was closing it out. So now what I did is like I just captured this parent window from this class and I was passing it as a parameter to this method. So this method would consider that as like a parent window and it's going to check it. Okay. So this is working fine now. So I just updated the code. So here just I'm capturing the parent window from this class itself. Okay. Now you can see it will do all set of actions and it will close the child window. This is parent window. Frame side windows is like parent window. Now it will click on that. Click on documentation, then click on search, enter data, do actions, and close it. Okay. Now you see it is coming back to the parent window. Okay. So this is how we'll be performing the automation when we want to work on the child windows. Okay. So today we are going to discuss about the frames. Okay. How do we switch to the frames and what actions that we are going to perform as part of frames. Okay. So before getting into that, I will explain how exactly these frames can be identified and how many ways that we are going to identify the frames. Okay, so we have like frames and we have iframes. Okay, both are same. Sometimes we see that frames, sometimes we see that iframes. Okay, so we can identify with the frame ID, then we have a name, and then we have a web element. Okay, so web element. So through this we are going to identify. Okay, so we can say that frame ID. Okay, I'll just frame ID could be something like, we have a frame and it can have ID, and name we have. Any other property, some other can be like, it can be some class or something. Okay, so class is equals to something. If nothing is like, if it is not able to identify any element with ID or a frame with ID or name, then we can go with the web element. Okay, so now we'll see that how exactly this frame will be embedded is like, see. So we have this web page. Inside this web page, we can see that's few components like, these are the components. Okay, so this is kind of a component. Within that, we have a text box. Okay, so this is window. This is kind of like window we have. And this is kind of a frame. Okay, so this is a frame. Frame will be embedded within this window. Okay, so now you can see this is a text box. Let us take, we are going to have this input. So now I need to switch from window to this frame if you want to perform some action on this particular element. Okay, so this is kind of like element that we have. If you want to make any, like, if you want to enter, if you want to click, or if you want to do any actions on this particular web element, you need to switch to this frame and you need to perform the actions. Okay, so likewise we can have like multiple frames here. So this is one frame and this is one frame. Okay, so let us consider we have like, these are the frames here. Frame 1, and when here we have like frame 2, and here we have like a frame 3. Okay, so now you see we have this frame and I want to switch between the frames. Okay, so if you want to switch to this frame, okay, from frame 1 to frame 2 and frame 2 to frame 3. Okay, so this is like, if you want to switch between the frames, if these frames are like, located different in the different places of the window, then what we have to do is like, we have to come back to this window and do the switch. Okay, we have to come back to this window and do the switch. If we have frame inside the frame, okay, for example, this is another frame which is inside this frame. So we can switch from this frame to the this frame to this frame, like which is embedded within it. Okay, directly. But if you give some frames which are at same level, then what we have to do is like we have to go back to this window and we have to switch it. Okay, for that we have a method called default content. Okay, so we'll try to see how exactly these frames can be identified and how do we work, like perform actions on that particular element which is available within the frame. Okay, so let's go to this. What is a frame? Frame is kind of like a component within a web element, within a web page. Okay, so I'll take this. See here. So here we have element, right? So what I'm going to do is like, first I'll come here. We'll write a piece of a code. I'm going to create packages Selenium or frames. Same example. So here I'll try to copy the same code here. Till here I'll be using it. Let me close all of them. So what is that we want to? This is the side that we want to use. Okay. Now what is that we have here is like we have a element. So I want, this is like a, I want to enter some input text in it. Okay. How do I do it now? So I'll go here and I'll try to identify this. So this is like we have a input tag with the text as like type. Okay. So input tag and we have grade type equals to text. Okay. So we have got this, right? So we have like first thing is like we can see here. The other one is located somewhere. Okay, so this is the second one. So we'll give the index to identify it. So matching, not matching. And we have one element. Okay, iframe demo. Okay, there is something called iframe demo. So I'll get into that and try to identify it. So I'll place within the hy tag. Okay. So iframe equals to so it is not within that. We'll take the container, okay, div container. So within the div container, we can just go and try to identify. We have a class. Within the class, we have a container. Okay, so container. We have like it's identifying the first one. Okay, so let's go here. So what is that we used? We want to enter some text, right? So enter. So what I can do is like I have already used this, right? So what is that class that I want to use is like I want to enter text into it. Okay, so window handles, we already looked into that example, right? So how do we enter the data? We have a method here. In this window handles, I have already written, so we can use it. Okay, so this is the method I want to enter. I want to use with this method and I want to enter. Okay, Windows handle, window handle example dot enter text and by dot XPath. What is that? Is that XPath that I want to pass is like? I'm reusing these methods. Okay. This is what in the text that we have to pass is like some test text. Okay, now we'll go and try to run this program. So what I'm trying to do is like I've identified this element and I want to enter some text to it. Okay, so let's go try to run this program. So it is launching the browser. We have this element available here. Okay, now what it is doing is like, see, it is searching for that element. Okay, it will wait for that element till the element is written because it is coming here and now it is like applying the wait. 30 seconds, it will wait for 30 seconds, then it's going to return the exception. Okay, we'll see what is that exception and how do we handle this now. Okay, but that element is available. If that element is not available, then it would have just throw the exception. Now you see, just scroll down and see what it is doing is like expected condition is failing, timeout exception. We are getting timeout exception. So what exactly it is doing is like, see, it is going and trying to identify that element, but that element is like, available, but it's like it's not written back. See, container text type. So try it for 30 seconds in like this is the interval. 500 milliseconds is like intervals it is applying. It's not able to get it. So the reason is like, so whenever we have any frames here, we have to switch to that frame. After that, we need to identify this element. How do we switch to the frame now? So first we go here and this is like a frame. Okay, right click on it. You can see this, it will show this frame. Okay, if you have any frames here, it will show as like this tag. Okay, so this option under this context clip. Okay, now you can see all the details of the frame. Okay, so if you want to if you want to view the information source of it, it will display. Okay, so now you see when you click on it, it will display its detail. Okay, what are its detail here? So you can see this is a frame and we have, see, inside this we have a container, we have a frame and we have a text box. Okay, it says like this frame contains the text box. So what you need to do is like you need to switch to that frame and you need to enter the text into it. Okay, so to identify it or else to get the details of it, what we need to do is like we need to go and check for the frame here. Okay, so you can see. So this is nothing but it is within the frame. iframe, we have ID and we have a name and we have a some other content like we can identify this element with the help of web element also. Okay, now I'll take this one iframe. So directly I'll go to my code here. What I'm going to write is like, see, d dot switch to frame. Okay, now you see what are the methods that we have inside this frame. It will display. See, we have frame and we can give the name or ID and web element. Okay, so these are the three things that we are going to use. Okay, first I'm going to take the index. For example, if we have a frames here. Okay, so other thing I need to add here is like we have a index. Okay, so index, name or ID and web element. Okay, all four together we are going to use. I'll write the index also. Okay, so indexing is like, see, if you have a frames, 3 frames here, so this index would be like 0 and this one will be like 1 and this one will be like 2. Okay, if you have 3 frames, so index I'm going to give it as like, first we'll try to identify with the element with the index first and then we are going to enter the data. Okay, now you see I'll go and run it. We are switching to the frame and then we are identifying the element and entering some text. See, now it has entered the data. You can see test the text. Okay. So earlier we tried to enter the data, but we did not switch to that frame. Okay. So whenever we have a frame, then we have to switch to that frame, and then we need to perform the operations actually. So to identify the element, and then after we can enter the data. Okay. So this is with the index. Okay. So with index, frame with index. So now frame with ID. Okay. So we'll try to identify frame with ID. Okay. So let me write a simple method so that it will be easy for us to understand. Okay. Public void frame with index. I'll paste it here. Okay. So instead of this, what I can do, I can just call this method. Okay. Frame with index. Try to write it here. So after this, I want to frame with ID. Frame with ID. What is that ID that we have here? You can see what is the frame ID. Go here and you can check. The ID is like single frame. Okay. So copy this and directly you can give that ID here. Okay. So I'm going to frame with ID. Now you see, execute this. I'm just commenting this line now. Now it's going to identify with the ID. It is going to enter the text here. Okay. For such frame or something, it's trying to identify the element here. Okay, let me re-execute this again. Let me check this one. So we'll go and check, try to check the method. Okay. Dot frame. So it says like, so what it is doing, it's a method of WebDriver. So frame, string, name or index. Okay. So we're going to give the ID. With ID, it should work. Let me just give some wait here. Dot sleep for 2 seconds. Then I'll go and execute this code. Everything is same. Okay. So everything is same, only that I'm just changing the ID of it. Let's wait and see what is the exception of frame with ID. Actually, let me just stop it again. I'm going to copy this. So what is a single frame? Okay. iframe. So this is again, you see, you have an iframe and we have ID single frame. I'm going to give it as like a single frame. So nothing but it's trying to identify the frame here. Okay, let's see what is that exception or something error that we have. It's waiting. See, now it has entered. Okay, so it was waiting for this element. Okay, so now you can see it has entered the data. With the ID also, we can able to identify the element. So now with the name that will try to identify the element. Okay, identify the frame, not the element. Identify the frame. Okay. So with name here, I need to change it. Go here, and what is the name? It is single frame. Okay. So it's camel cases. Now you can see this is like capital. This is like capital. So here we have like small letters. So I'll command this, and I'm going to copy paste it here. Name. Here I'm going to change. Okay, now it has to identify, it has to switch to that particular frame, and then it should enter the data. See, it has entered the data here. Okay, test to text. So this is how we'll be identifying the element with the index, frame with index, ID, and name. Okay, after that we are going to identify. Now, in case like if you don't have anything here, okay, if you don't have anything here, so here we are going to identify the frame with the web element. That's nothing but we are going to write the syntax here. How do we write the syntax now? So d dot find element y dot xpath. So in this xpath, we are going to give the
Shrikant,
yeah.
yeah, you have given that a frame with ID with single frame only, and also with name single. It's the same code we will use.
Yes, so here you see ID or name. The method itself says is like ID or name. Go to this frame, you can see it says like name or ID.
Oh, okay. It was
Okay, so here you can see we have ID and we have a name. So any one of this will work in this case. Okay.
okay.
Yeah. So let's go back to this web element, identifying the element with the web. So here I'll come here and I'm going to take something. Okay. Source we have, right? So I'll take this source. So if we are not able to identify the element with any of this ID or name, if it is not working or if we don't have those properties, then we can go with this. Okay. So it is source is equals to, so we have this. I can see iframe 1/ is missing there. Now you see. So we are able to identify it. Okay. So we are able to identify this. Take this one, go and paste it here. And I'm going to call the method with web element. Web element, and here I'm going to copy and paste it here. Will be, and now you try to execute it. It should work with the web element also. We use ID, name, and index, and we are trying to identify with the web element also. As you see, it has entered the data. That's nothing but this frame is getting identified with index, ID, name, and web element. Okay. So this is very simple. In case of like we are switching to between this like window and frame. but we have something which is like nested frames. Okay, nested frames as a frame inside the frame. This is first frame and this is the second frame. And here we have the element which we need to identify and enter the data in it. Okay, it's an input box. So let's go and try to identify this one. Now you see we have a text here. Okay, so it is similar to this, but we have inside this. So everything is similar. Okay, so but you see this is like frame inside the frame. Okay, so this is the first, this is a frame, and inside the frame we have this is a multiple frame, which in that we have other frame. Okay, now in this case what we do, how do we actually uh switch to the frames? Now we'll write a simple program for this. It's a single frame that we have taken. Now we are going to take multiple frame example. So here in this case, we'll try to switching to the first frame. Okay, so if you want to identify that element, so that we have first frame, right? To go to the first frame, I'm using the index 0. Okay, so within that we have another frame. Okay, I'll just show you the example here itself. Now what we are trying to do is like we are trying to just switch to the second frame. Okay, first frame and second frame. If remember this is important. When we have frame inside the frame, directly we can do the switch. Okay, because it is a child element. But in case it's kind of like at the same level. Okay, at the same level, we cannot switch that. We need to use a default content. That is like a method which will switch you back to the window. Then after you can switch to the other frame. Okay, so we'll try to see that one. Now you see. So there what we need to do is like we need to click on this iframe within iframe. Okay, so this is the anchor tag that I have to click on. Okay, so for this I'm going to identify text. No, you see, you can just click on this. So for clicking, we have already written that, right? So just you can first you need to click on that. So for that we have window handles example dot click by dot XPath. Just click on that. After that, it will switch to that first frame. This is nothing but frame 1, and this is nothing but frame 2. Okay, we'll try to look into this example first, and then we can look with the rest of the examples. What is that it is trying to identify is like, so it is showing no such frame actually. It says like no such frame. So why that is throwing the switching to this frame, I'll just wait for 2 seconds. Okay, let's wait for 2 seconds. Then after we can switch to the second frame. What it says like frame 1, frame 0, and frame 1. Okay, so maybe they could not be like it is like sorry for this guys, actually they are not at same level, right? So we cannot get into this one. So let me just give this 0 0 indexing. Okay, within that frame, this is like only one child we have. Okay, so within that frame, inside the frame is like 0 of 0. That's nothing but it's going here. It's like first frame we have. Within that frame we have another frame. It is that it is showing No such frame. Where is it throwing the exception? Then we can go here and try to see it. It is switching to the first frame. It is throwing the exception at the second frame. Okay. Second frame, switching to the second frame. Let's do one thing. Let's not use the indexing here. I'll try to give the name of that. Okay. Single frame. Let's take this one and see what happens here. Okay. Indexing would be little confusing, guys, but I'll just try to explain it in this way. We'll not try to use the indexing because indexing is like, see, what we talked about indexing here. So this could be one index. If we are at the same level, then we can give like one. If the other frame is there, then we can give is like two. I'll show you like how do we exactly traverse between the indexing. Okay. So let's try to exclude this one. So with the help of like first one indexing, another one is like, I'm just taking the name of that frame. It is trying now, you see, it is finding this frame, but it's waiting for that element. Okay. Let's go and try to identify this element and see if we have this element here or not. Okay. So let's go to this, switch to frame and Control F, Control V. This will inspect this. And then after I'm going to put it here. It's not highlighting anywhere. Can you see this one? It's not highlighting. It is something highlighting at this particular frame. Okay. So at this particular frame. See, it is highlighting here. Okay. It's not finding it. So see, it is not highlighting. So we need to identify this element. Okay. So that is what it will throw the exception now, timeout exception. Now you can see it is throwing timeout exception. There's no frame or element. Okay. So this is different. ID with the single name. Okay. So we'll try to identify them. No such frame. Again, it's throwing no such frame. Let me just check. What is that frame actually that we want to switch is like? So we'll identify whole frame. Then here we can see within this we have single frame. Before that we have like multiple frame. Okay. So let me take the index, leave the indexing and let me try to take it with the ID and name. Okay. ID and name. So it would check for the name or ID. Here it would check for the name or ID. Okay. So first it has to switch to this frame. Then it has to switch to the other frames. But here again, I need to verify whether this element is available or not. Okay. So let me just identify this element. Go on. So this is the text that we have. Let me say highlighting. Let me just check it in Chrome. If this doesn't work, don't worry. I'll show you another one also. So sometimes it could be an issue with the sites also, guys. Okay. So we'll try to check the other sites also. We have a good examples over there. We'll try to check that one. Okay. Now I'm going to inspect the element. Element inspection would be similar in all the browsers. Only thing is like I'm just using, which is like, comfortable to me. So Chrome, I'm just trying to identify it in Chrome. happens to this? Something it got stuck actually. Let me just. Okay, we got it. Now you can see this is the text. Okay. So Control F and I'll identify this element input. And the type is equals to text. So it is there, but you can see this is at the index 2. If I give 2 here, let's try to identify with 2. So it's not coming up. 1. Okay, so let me take this. Two things, guys. For this, what we have to do, and the other condition is like process ID. Okay, so the process ID is equals to. Now you see it is uniquely identified. Okay, so let me change this. Let me change the XPath of this. And after that, what we are trying to do is like we want to get into the first frame. Okay, so here we have like single frame, and on top of it we have a multi-frame. Okay, so source we don't have any name for this. So do you see this? Okay, here we have a ID, but what we have is like iframe does not have any name. Okay, so here in this case we don't have a name, so we'll try to take the source. That's something, but we have to use the web element. So this option should not work. Okay, so in this case this would not work. Okay, but generally it is like switching this one, but the second window it's not like second frame, it's not able to identify. Let's go and try to give the same indexing again. Okay, indexing it did not work. Okay, so if indexing is not work, then we have to go with IDR name. If IDR name is not working, then we go with the web element. So directly we'll go with the web element, so we don't waste our time here. If this is not working, we can go with the web element. See, now it is like it is not identifying this. Okay, so let me write this piece of code. So whichever we have identified, right? So let me copy this. Okay, directly we can do this one otherwise. Okay, so here we have already identified element, right? So okay, I'll just remove this. I'll remove this one also. I'll remove this one also. So directly we can go with one web element. Okay. So our important goal is to identify the element, and then you have to enter the text to that by switching between the through this whatever we say multiple or frames that we have, whatever multiple frames that we have. Okay, so here I'm going to change it now. I'll take this one. Okay, so after this I'll wait for 2 seconds at least. Okay, the identification would be like little. See, now here we have. Okay. Okay, so another thing is like we need to change this object also. Okay, so we are trying to identify that input box. So it should work now. Okay, so let's go and oh, we did not click on this, right? So we need to click on this. So let me identify the element also. I'm going here and trying to identify this. So what is that method that we can use here is like stop. Okay, so clickable, then it goes to this, then it goes to this, then it has to enter the data here. Okay, so let me go and execute this program now. It is trying to identify this now. So expected conditions, it is like feeling for this. Actually, it switched to that. I can see there is a error with this particular thing. Okay, so it is switching. Now it is like switched to this frame. If otherwise, we would have get this exception here. Let me check what is that actually. So why is it not able to identify the element? Let me take this and try to. There is no issue with this switching the frames. Okay, only the thing is like it's not able to identify this element. Okay, so here it is able to identify. Let's need to see. But it's trying to identify this element. Okay, so let me and operation, and it is working fine. So here we have closed it, and when then we are trying to pass it. Okay, let me just check it again. So switching is like done now. Only thing is like it's waiting for that element to get. It is coming here and it is trying to identify it. Okay, so let's wait. If it is not working, then we can take another approach also. Let's see. Okay, so here we have issue with this object identification. Okay, there is no issue with the switching between the frames. Let me just remove this, or I'll put the R condition and we'll try to see if both conditions are matching, then only it will try to enter the data. Okay, so it's trying to identify the element. And condition is like two conditions should satisfy. R condition is like any one of this condition is satisfied in XPath, then it's going to enter the data. Okay, click on it. See, now it has inserted the data. Okay, so there could be some chances here, like sometimes in XPath identification. See what is happening here in this case is like, see, we have only one ID which is visible here, but in case here in the same, like I'm just trying to identify the element in Chrome, then it is showing two properties, but in Firefox it was showing only one property. Okay, I tried to use AND condition and trying to identify that element. Okay, but it was not helping us. Now you see that it has inserted the data. Okay, so how do we switch now? From within the, if we have frame within the frames, then directly we can go and use this. Okay, so if ID name is not given, then directly go with the web element. Okay, if IDs are given, then you can give the IDs. If web element, like if name is given, you can give the name. For indexing also it should work, but need to just we'll try to do it again and see that if it is working, because it doesn't. It's not anything like that we can just because we have frames which are defined at this indexing level, so we can directly go and give the indexes. Okay, so indexing is like now you see, so it is here I'm putting as like 0, and here also like I'm trying to switch to the other frame within the frame. Okay, so frame within the frame, I'm trying to switch between. This is like first frame. You can see this is first frame and this is first frame within this frame. Okay, so let's try with this index. So here index with index, and I want to do index. I will try to point. See, any one of the approaches that we can use in case of nested frames, it's better to go with the web element, because web element will definitely identify them through web element. Okay. So if we have ID names, that also we can go and give it. So now it is like it's not finding such frame. So I think this is the issue. Actually, it's not able to switch to that frame again. Okay, let's change the index 1. And if it's treating as like a second frame, it is showing the same exception. Okay, so this is not working. This approach is not working. So here also you can go with this approach. Like if you want to switch to this frame, first we have switched into the switched into that frame, right? Now we are first one I'm trying to identify with the index, and second frame I'm trying to identify with the web element. Let's go and see what happens. What is it doing now? So it is so it is trying to, this is switched onto the frame, and it is trying to identify the second frame. Okay, so here we have like single frame. Let me just go single frame. So it is like again, it is like missing out, like identifying this element with the frame with the web element. So it's better to go with this approach. Okay, so we can give the tries here. So I'm just trying on this website, but in different website it would work. Okay, so now you see we are into this, like, okay, well, let's go to this example that whatever we have discussing with the web element. I'll just remove this. So this is like this approach is not working. Okay, so let's remove this and we go and use this approach web element. Okay, so now the thing is like I want to switch back to the main window. Okay, so we are like in this frame. Guys, give me a second, guys. 1 second. Yeah, guys, sorry. Now you see what I'm trying to do is like I want to come back to this window. I want to click on this single frame and I want to switch to this window, switch to this frame and enter this text box. Okay. So it's like operation. We are coming here, entering some data, coming back to the window, clicking on this frame. Okay. Single frame icon, like whatever we have button, and coming to this frame and switching to this, and we are entering some data. Okay. For this, we are going to write a code now. Okay. So for nested ifs, you can see this. This is how we'll be working on. Okay. So now I want to go back to the main window. For this, what we have to do is like we have to use d dot switch to default content. Okay. So when we say d dot switch to default content, so now you see this method will enter data into this text. Okay. So it's switching to first frame, it's going to second frame, and then entering some data into it. Okay. See, after that, we are using d dot switch to dot default content. Okay. See, after that, we want to get the title of the window. Otherwise, I'll click on this single frame. Okay. Click on this single frame. Otherwise, I want to click on this single frame. Okay. So let me just click on this. Okay. So we are trying to identify this element. So what is that? Single frame. Okay. I'll click on this and I need to traverse to this. Okay. So we'll try to perform like, clicking on this particular element. Let me just take this. So whatever we have here. Okay. Now you see it will be faster. So what it does is like it will first switch to this nested frames, whatever we have, it will enter the data. And again, it will come back to the main window. That's nothing but it will come back to this main window and it will click on this single iframe. Okay. So let's go and try to execute this code. Remember one thing, like if you want to switch within the frames, then directly we can switch. Or if you want to switch to the frames which are at different level, then we have to use the default content. See now what it is doing now. So it is moving like, it entered data here and it clicked on this. And here I want to enter some data. Okay, we have already created some methods here, right? In this frame example, I'll try to enter the data here. Okay, I'm going to call this method. So this method I'm going to call. Okay, so this method or this method, whichever method you want to call, here you can call. Okay, I'll just try to call this web element method here. And what is that we have? The frame. Frame. Okay, frame with web element, but here we have to take the class name. Come here. Going here. Now it will take this window, but this is like we don't have a driver that we have. We have to pass the web driver here. Okay. So I'll try to pass this one as well. So here I am passing it as like a driver. Okay, right click. Now what it has to do, it has to enter some data into that single frame. Okay, switch to that, like click on that button, switch to that single frame, and then enter text. On this and just text. Now you see. Okay, so it came here. First, it switched to the frame. It entered data, and it came here and switched to the frame, and it entered the data. So finally, if you want to get the title of the window, then what we have to do is like default content. Come to the default content, system out. Then I'll get d dot get title. Get title. Okay. Come here, test text, let's go to this frame switch and get the title of it. Okay. So the rest directly you can see what is the title is like frames. Go here and try to check what is the title of it. So it will show you the title. This is the title, window title. Okay. So this is how we'll be working on the frames, guys. This is like single frame. If you have single frame, directly you can use this methods, whatever we have, like see with ID, with index, ID, our name, or the web element. Okay. For the multiple frames, it should work, but we don't have those properties there. So that is the reason why it is not able to identify. So directly we went and we try to use this web element. Okay. So with the web element, I am trying to identify the frames. Okay. This is like first frame it is switching and it is switching to second frame and then it is entering some text here. Okay. So with the frame, we are identifying the frame which is identified by the web element and we are performing some actions on it. Okay, I'll take another example. So which is like, very basic example for us in terms of identifying the frames. Okay, I'll just take this down. Yeah. So here, Java documentation ABS. Okay, so something. So this now you can see these are like, in a different frames. Okay, so this is like first frame, second, how this order will be like, see. So we have, this is like when we identify, when we want to identify some elements in this. So this is like within the frame. See, this is like frame. Likewise, we have frame sources. This is like sequencing 1, 2, and then we have 3. Okay, so complete frame set. Now you can see within this frame set, we have 2 things. 1, 2, 1, 2, and this is like kind of 3. Okay. So what we can do is like we try to identify this frames. Now I'll come here. So we have name and we have source also and title is given. So if you want to get the property name of this, how do we get the name? How do we get the name? So now you can see left frames that we have. I'll take this example. Okay. I'll tell you the functionality. How do we do this now? What we are trying to do? Okay. So I'll close it. First, I'll come to this frame. I'll click on this applet. Once it clicks on this applet, I'll click on the applet context. After this, I'll come here and I'll click onto this applet. Okay, this is my functionality. Okay, so this is how the result should come. Okay, come back, come back, come back. Now you see. Okay, so now we'll try to do these actions. Okay, I'm going to create one other class switching between the frames. Okay, so this is like switching between frames. So here I'll take the same thing that we are having this piece of code to load the browser. I will change the URL. Okay, I'll come here. Guys, whatever we are discussing, all our interview questions. How do we identify frame? We identify frame with index, ID, name, and web element. Okay, so how do we switch the frame? We use d.switch to dot frame. Then how do we come back to the main window? We use d.switch to default content. Okay, default content is to come back to the main window. Okay, so these are the questions, guys, in interviews they are going to ask you. How do you handle the frames and so you can just explain all these things. Now, how do we switch the frames? So if you have at the same level, then what we have to do is like first we have to switch back to the main window, then we'll switch to the other. Okay, so now you see all these frames are at same level. Like you can see these 2 frames are at same level, right? These are at same level. So if I say click on this and switch to this frame and click on this, it will not work like that. Okay, we have to come back to the main window and we have to switch it. Okay, so we'll see with that example. Now you see what I'm trying to do is like I want to identify this first frame. I want to switch to it. Okay, so for this what I'm going to do is like d.switch to dot frame I'm giving the indexing 0. And I'm trying to identify some element. Okay, click. Have to use that. What is that? We have this Windows handle dot click y dot xpath, and we have some anchor tags there, right? So text is like we need to identify this one. So right click, inspect, go to this and try to click on this. Now you can see there is a text. Okay. So give the text here. Text is equals to just give me a second here. Charging is going out of it. I'll just plug in the charging. Okay. So I put on the charger. Now you can see that I'm clicking on this. After this, what I want to do is like I want to switch to the other frame that is located at first index, and I want to click on this. I'll go here, and once you click on this, you can see there is a change in this. Okay, so you get like when you click on AWT, you'll get this event. Okay, let's go and try to click on this AWT. Okay, and I want to click on this active element. So we have active element here, active event. So Control F, and you can just give the title it as like A text is equals to. If you want to click on this, right? So you can just use this interfaces or something. So it is in the hyperlink, but we have it is like a title. It's not a text. It has a title. Let's take the text here itself, but I'm just trying to remove this, and it'll give the text here, but which is there in this span. Okay. So we are able to identify it. Now I am going to copy this. Okay. So first it should come to this frame and it will click on this. Okay. We have AWT. Okay. So AWT. So it will click on this AWT. Okay. I'll show you the functionality again. See AWT. Now we'll see this active element. Okay. So it should click on this active element. You can able to see interface active element. So let me come here and first it's like it's going to click on this AWT. Then after it has to click on this active element. Okay. So let's go and try to execute this. So all the frames, like 2 frames are at same level, right? So it should go and click on this active element. But do you see anything happening here? It is not happening because the scope of that particular control, the control would be there in the frame. Okay. If you want to come out and you want to click on this other frame, which is available at the same level. Okay. So kind of like, which are like kind of a siblings. Okay. So in that case, this will not work. It will throw the error here. Okay. So it's nothing but you can see. So it is like, it's not able to switch to this. Okay. So for this, what we have to do is like, we have to use d dot switch to default content. Okay. Now it will come to the main window and it will switch to this frame and it will try to click on this active element. Okay. Let's go and try to execute this code. See what is happening now? Do you see that interface active event? So whenever we want, if you want to come out of the frame, then we have to use this d dot switch to default content. Okay, default content is like our method which will take you back to this main window. And now we have another frame which is available. Okay, so that's nothing but here we have another frame, right? So here we have another frame. I want to click on this invocation event. Okay, so invocation event. So now I'll take this Control C, Control F. I'll just change the text is equals to invocation event. Okay, so I want to click on this. After clicking this, what happens now? I can see there is a invocation event title class. Okay, so I will just go here. Okay, so I directly I'm going to click on that in this case. So dot click element by dot xpath. Let's see what happens. Okay. So it's not clicking on this invocation event because the focus is here in this frame. To come out of this, what we have to do? Again, you get the same. Now see, it is trying to identify the element, but the element will not be available. There it will throw timeout exception or because it's not there is in this frame. Okay. So simply we can't waste our time now. I'll just close it. And what I need to do is like, I'll say switch to default content. Then I'm going to take the frame ID. Okay. Let's consider this as like 2 because we have 3 frames within the page, right? Which are in sequencing order 0, 1, 2. They are not within the frames. Okay. Frame within the frame is not here. Now you see it clicked on the invocation event. Okay. So this is like first frame, second frame, and third frame. You can use the names or web element also. Okay. If it is like if you want to identify this element a frame with different IDs, that is also quite possible. How do we identify whether we have a frame or not? So here you can see it will show view frame source and reload frame. Okay. For example, if this is not a frame, it's also frame. Okay. So this is, see, we have everything is like frame. If, for example, if you want to see whether that has a frame or not, see, right click on it, you don't see anything here. But when you right click on the frame, you can see it will show view source and reload source. Okay. If something is not working in certain cases, then you have to check whether it is there in the frame or not. Okay. So here everything is like in the frame. So you can identify with this, like, if you have a name, first we'll try to identify with the name. So let's see. I'll go here and I'll try to check whether we have a name or something. Come here and you can see we have a name. Okay. So first one I'll identify with the name. And second one, I'll take the index. And third one, I'll try to identify with the web element. And other thing we discussed about indexing IDR name, right? So I will take IDR name and we'll take indexing. And this one, I'm going to take it as like a, so we have already taken this as like class name. Let me take this one as like a iframe. And what we have in this case is like, we have a class or something target or something we have this. Title. Okay. So its title is equals to it is in a frame. Okay. So now we do Control C, go back to this, and now you can give d dot find element by dot xpath, and you can pass the xpath here. Okay. So we can write methods for this also, guys. So we'll do these actions. After that, I'll show you how do we write the methods. So here you can apply the polymorphism, overriding, okay? So now you see, it clicked on, all the actions are performed, okay? So now you see, how do we write, say for example, if you want to switch to this frame, and what is that you can write is like, you can write a method here, public static void, now polymorphism, okay? So switch to frame. So here I'm going to give int index. Okay, so now you see here what I'm going to do is like, I'll just pass it as like a index. Now you can call this method directly, okay? So instead of this, you can, I'll just try to copy paste it so that we can see. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the string. I'll say ID or name. Okay, take this and paste it here. So we have another one is like y. D dot, so instead of writing all this, D dot find elements by. See, now we have this C switch to element. We are trying to identify with the name, and here I'll give ID, and here instead of giving all these things, what I'm trying to give is like, I'm just calling okay. So now simply what they are doing is like, these are the three methods that we have, and within this, like, we have written three methods. So still we have another options, like we can put some template also. Okay, we'll discuss it later. This is a little advanced. I don't want to confuse you guys now. So now you see, based on this, like switch to frame. So you are not just passing the name here or ID. So which one it is calling now? You can say it is string ID or name. So here it is taking the index, int index. So here it is taking the by class. That is nothing but it's going to this web element. Okay. So now go and execute it. So made it like very simple now. Okay. Instead of writing the d dot switch to frame. So I'm just writing all these methods. So whichever method you want, you can call that method. Okay. So same actions that it has performed. I can say clicked on this AWT events, and after that we clicked on the invocation count. Okay. So finally, if you want to switch back to this main window, I can write public static void. Switch to main WN. Okay. So here we can write default content. Okay. Now you see, whenever we need this, we'll remove this and we are going to use switch to main window. So here also switch to main window. Wherever it is required, we can use this one. Now it looks very clean, right? So code looks very clean. See. Okay, first it will come, switch to this window, click on it, coming back to the main window, again switching to the frame, and it will click on this, coming back to the main window, it will finally close it here. Okay, so finally come back to this main window and you can get the .get title. Okay, right click and execute it again. See, all we are driving it through the methods now. Okay. Do you see all these actions are performed here? So finally, we are getting like active element. Okay. So this is what we got it right. So active element is like, we want to check this one, you can check it. Okay. So go here and get the title of it. See. Okay. So here it is like we clicked on this invocation. Okay. Active element is like, I'm just clicking on this. After this, I should get it. Okay. See that finally it is like getting the text of it. Let me just check it again. It's faster actually. Okay. So it is getting active element. Okay. So let me just wait for some time. Then if you can wait for few seconds, then it's going to get you there. Okay. So when you switch back the main window, I think it is taking that particular window. Otherwise, if I don't switch back to this main window, if you don't want to have switch back to this main window, directly go and exploit this. On AWT event and click on invocation count. Okay. Okay. For some reason, it is pulling this one. So, but you not to worry. Just I'm trying to get the text of it. Okay. So if we can like get the title of that. Okay. So what is the title of that particular element? Maybe like it's showing here invocation event, but during the execution, it is taking the. So now you got it right. How do we exactly switch between the frames, and how do we come back to the main window, and how do we perform if we have frames? Within the frames, we talked about single frames, multi frames, and nested frames also. Okay, so please practice this, guys. This is very important. Tomorrow we have a class again, so we'll be discussing about like alerts. Okay, so tomorrow we'll discuss about alerts. After that, we'll switch into the frames. Actions classes. Okay, so frames we have discussed, right? So if you have any questions, please let me know. Please practice this, guys. This is very important. We talked about like window handles, and we talked about like frames, and we'll be talking about like alerts. How do we handle the alerts?
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.